Hey guys, and welcome to Spark Up Fantasy, where I review and put you on the best romance novels out. Today I'll be reviewing The Age of the Andinna, The Gladiator's Downfall by Kristen Bennett. This is a reverse harem romantic fantasy novel. It takes the concept of a character being enslaved and having to overcome, escape, and learn to live, love, and thrive afterwards. If what just happened to Meg the Stallion and how black women are treated overall has you hot, this character will help relieve some of that frustration, since she just beheads the people who mess with her. No problem. So let's get started. The first thing that I love to talk about is the cover. I'm not going to read the book with a boring cover. Sorry, not sorry. Show me why this book is captivating off rip. For The Gladiator's Downfall, we have the heroine looking pretty badass. She has a serious warrior Princess Xena vibe with her outfit, and she's paired with the title, which is The Gladiator's Downfall, so I'm already captivated. She has leathery wings and the horns coming from both sides of her head. I'm always way more interested in my heroines when they are forced to be reckoned with. The scary weak girls bore me, and I quickly move on, which is why I really only fantasy novels mostly. Swords, magic, psychics, hand-to-hand combat, I don't care, but she needs to be able to hold her own. So this book takes place mostly in a place called the Pits, which is a labyrinth-like jail that the Elvasi, and you can picture them as Fae, have imprisoned the enslaved Andinna to have a Colosseum-style fight-to-the-death battles. When the Andinna lost the 100-Year War, Empress Shadra of the Elvasi enslaved whatever Andinna she didn't kill. Some as agricultural labor, some as miners, and some as gladiators. So the plot starts with Mave, who is our heroine, in the Colosseum viewing box with Empress Shadra and her son. Immediately, we are introduced to Mave doing exactly what her life has consisted of for the past 1,000 years. She enters the sands, faces off against an Andinna male, killing him quickly and walking off. After the fight, we immediately see the other side of the gladiator role. Mave is rented out to a noble to use sexually. She really smacks you in the face with Mave's reality from jump. The next day, new arrivals come, and Mave can't stop herself from being somewhat curious. She goes out to the gate, and immediately Matesh and Raynev stand out amongst the rest of the slaves. They stood tall and had a different aura about them than everyone else. Matesh and Raynev spot Mave, curious about how she ended up being the only female in the Colosseum among only male warriors. So after talking to the other slaves about Mave, they find that the men have a terrible view of Mave. They call her all kind of hoes and bees, alienate her, deny her ritual tattoos like you'll see like on her face in the subsequent novels. And they also blame her for their being in slavery. So when I read this book through the first time a year ago, I was already drawing comparisons between what Mave was experiencing and some of the behavior among men I see on Twitter. So honestly, the men in my life growing up and now are phenomenal, and I've really been blessed, but some of them are exactly like this. The male Andinna want to have sex with her, but they also call her a slut. The author writes about how Mave has tried to escape and take some of the male Andinna with her, and when they failed, the remaining males would curse her and hate her even more. Sounds a little familiar. Or not telling the police he shot you to try to prevent the suffering of just one more. So you just think, aren't there enough? I shouldn't contribute to the system, is how I would be feeling. I think how most women feel. So reading this and picking out those similarities really blew me, to be honest. But back to the story. Raynev, and I'm going to call him Rain from now on, is moved by how everyone treats Mave and wants to understand her and rectify her relationships with the men of her race. During a meal, they decide to sit at her table and introduce themselves. Mave tries to warn them away, since for the past 1,000 years, every male has been either trying to sleep with her, kill her, or both. But when Rain proves steadfast, Mave lets them stay, and therein begins the softening of her heart towards them. In the pits, they are only referred to by the numbers on their ear tags. So Rain telling her their names is a level of trust that she has never experienced. Like, can y'all think about that? Like, she doesn't even know any of their names. They're all just numbers to her. She's never even known who they are, even though they all know her name. She keeps repeating it to herself that it's a small kindness that she can't shake. The next day, Mave is called on by Empress Shaja to sit as a pet in front of a northern lord to prove her people are not all savages if they are just subjugated. Maytesh recounts this event and gives important background information. Mave was kidnapped as a baby, and her father, the main general of the war between the Elbasi and the Andinna, tried to get her back by agreeing to a compromise. Instead, Shaja slaughtered them and kept Mave as her example of taming an Andinna and enslaved the rest. I just make it make sense. So basically, the Andinna men in the pits hate Mave because they blame her for losing the war. So the next segment of the book is all about relationship building among Mave, Maytesh, and Rain. The three of them spar together. They have tense moments of misunderstanding, and then a conversation where Mave really explains the depths of her mistreatment and slavery. It's really an endearing part of the book. You get to see Rain adopting Mave as his big sister, giving her the first real family she's ever had, and her and Matt skirt around their sexual chemistry, and you get to see him grow more and more in awe of her resilience, intelligence, and commitment to surviving, and basically everything they put her through. So one morning, it's announced that there will be a tournament celebrating the Elbasi winning of the 100-year war. Yes, it is the Hunger Games. A whole week of fighting gladiators from other towns, each other, and mystical animals. Winners get a week off, real meals, and entertainment. This reminds Mave of how long she's really been enslaved and slaughtering her own people. Mave accurately predicts that the week will be a shit show. They decide to have the three of them stay in Mave's private room that she earned after 100 years of fighting to help keep them from getting jumped in the labyrinth. Rain, Ev, and Maytesh go to get their cots and blankets to store in Mave's room, but because they stood up for Mave earlier, they had a jumping coming their way. Before they get jumped, number 72 tells them this ass whooping is to keep them humble. Matt and Rain put up a fight, but are outnumbered and get beat down. When Mave realizes that they have been gone for too long, she goes searching and finds them both beaten badly, with a chunk of Matt's horn being broken off. Mave struggles to get them both back to her room, and she takes care of them. This forced Mave to face some important feelings, mainly how she feels about Matt and Rain, as well as her self-worth. In the 3 weeks that they've been together, she realized that they are now her family, irrevocably tied to her. After the jumping, they keep to the schedule to keep the guards from paying attention to them and getting into trouble. The guards hand out scrolls detailing who will fight when, and Mave's illiteracy is revealed to Matt and Rain. Mave even admits how she feels about herself. She feels like an uneducated whore with a nice rack. And Matt quickly tells her that she is a great warrior on and off the sands. I think what really messes with me when I think about American slavery and making these connections between the Andinna and how I feel is that not only did black women have to work in the fields or do textile work, they also were getting raped by their masters, having their children, forced to breastfeed white babies while neglecting their own, and all that minor gynecology. Like, whose uterus do you think they were taking and examining? So how can you not beg for death? I don't even know, like, that resolve. Like, the whole intersectionality thing really messes with me. So back to the book. After the emotional and honest conversation, Mave is able to suck up her pride and begin learning the basics of reading from Rain. The tournament lasts 7 days with them all fighting every day. The first day, Maytesh kills another Andinna slave. Mave is also paired against an Andinna that she quickly kills. We then fast forward to the 4th day, where Mave has to execute Andinna's slaves, who are domestic servants, for things like shoplifting, so they don't have to starve and such. Mave fights a chimera, a fantasy animal that has a lion and a goat head with a venomous snake tail. Mave gets through the fight, but is weak and needs sleep to recover. Mave takes her back to her room to rest, and then leaves back out to get Raynef after his fight. But can Matt just live in peace? Absolutely not. Here comes the haters to jump him again. Mave wakes up to a new prize fighter over her with a hand on her mouth and him holding a dagger. Mave outmaneuvers him, kills him and his two buddies that came in her room after she killed the first one. She obviously knows something is very wrong now, grabs her swords and runs to get Matt and Rain. She finds Matt in the hallway, throws him a sword, and they take down the guys who were jumping him. Then they run to find Rain, being jumped as well, about to be raped. Matt and Mave kill them all, with Mave being taken down by a guard who caught her by surprise. They killed 28 gladiators and woke up in chains in front of Empress Shadra. Shadra announces that the loss of all the property has her nobles upset, so she needs to rectify that. Therefore, they are scheduled to fight each other to the death on the last day of the tournament. They get back to the pits and find out that Mave has been stripped of her room and thrown back in Gen Pop. For those that don't know, that's general population. She's out of the mostly safe environment that's been her escape for 900 years. They accept their fate, and Matesh and Mave give in to their attraction since they are scheduled to lose each other in a couple of days anyway. But before they can really get into it, Zayden, who's Rain's father, Dave, Mave's human caretaker, and a kind-hearted Elvasi guard that helped Mave out earlier come to break them out. They make a run for it after they sneak past the drugged guards. The human dips off into the shadows, hiding from being captured. The Elvasi stays behind to fight soldiers that caught up to them, allowing the 4 Andinnas to successfully escape the city. Even though they make it out of the city, they still have to travel to get out of the Elvasi Empire. But y'all know we don't just let slaves run away. No, the property must know their place at all times. We have to get them back. The Ivory Shadow Mercenary Company, a group of free Andinna that Matesh and Rain belong to, finds them, and we meet most of the major characters for the subsequent books in the series. The main two for now being Alkin, king of the Andinna, and his brother Lucas, esteemed blood magician. Lucas removes their slave collars and ear tags. Mave then tries to go to sleep and heal the scar left by the collar she's had on for 1,000 years. Matt recounts their experience to Luca and Alkin, catching everyone up on Mave and her triggers. So soon the Elvasi track them down and attack. The Andinna are able to slip away and board a boat that will take them out of the Empire. But Shadra has one last trick up her sleeve. She uses Mave's blood to try and use sorcery to kill her. Lucas ends up forcing a blood bond to kick Shadra out of Mave's mind. This ends up causing problems in future books, but was necessary to save Mave's life. This book ends with Shadra throwing Trevin, the kind-hearted Elvasi, into the pits as Mave's replacement and punishment for helping her escape. The end. So the highlights of this book are endless. It has a gritty and impactful plot. The book also moves at a great pace, keeping the reader engaged. The scope of the world in this book is very limited. It's just the pits, Colosseum, and Palace. So the author Bennett focuses instead on really exploring the feelings of all the characters. This book had me asking big questions like, what is it like to be a woman amongst men who are supposed to protect and cherish them but don't? How do you learn to trust after lifetimes of mistreatment? What is the value of a life? She brings these themes up and leaves the reader having nothing but respect and love for Mave. This is the first sturdy brick of a phenomenal series. Some cons. I know. I hated that Fairy Shark waited so long to introduce all the new love interests. But when you're fighting for your life every day just to survive, sex is not the first priority. So the celibacy is not for an erroneous reason. And the subsequent books really incorporate the multiple relationships beautifully. So there we go. No cons. Read the book. Use my link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me in the comments how you feel about Mave's relationship with the male Andinna. You can also find me at Spark Up Fantasy on all social platforms, as well as sparkupfantasy.com. I post all my new artwork to Instagram and my website by the same name. If you want to hang out with me in person, you can catch me streaming on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday. See y'all later.